Welcome.
So I wanted you, um, especially about the sacred geometry, which I
Mhm.
really love as you're coming to find out, because and you were also talking about the codes, and we learned about that in a guy's name is it's called Etagram Institute, and he came to
Okay.
our church. Now, my church was not your normal church. My church basically was a metaphysical church in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Mhm.
So we touched on a lot of stuff like the triangle, and we sat under the pyramid, and we just did, different things.
Mhm.
But what I want to talk about is like there's numbers that are in sequence like 333, 999, also sequences, and they mean different things. And I learned, um, with three, for me, things for me to really get a veil of what's going on with me, it has to happen in a three. If it
Okay.
happened three times, then I know it's for me. That's just me. And it'll show and it'll repeat. But the things for me to like know that the doors are open, okay, three times, three times, three times. And if I see three, 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 it was like, okay, the doors opening, and then it was like, okay, you're at the ultimate highest level, and letting me know, yes, you are a light worker, yes, you're doing what you're supposed to do, yes, the world wants to hear what you have to say. So now these doors are going to open, be ready to walk through them. And there's a difference, because most people say, oh, I see them but I don't understand, and they're not ready to walk through it. It's like, well, why am I not being blessed? Are you, like you're saying,
Right.
are you ready?
Exactly. Well, I think you kind of you're reiterating what I said before about number sequences. And Doreen Virtue writes a lot about this in her book called Angel Numbers. She writes a lot about it that the universe will communicate us through numbers. But on a deeper level, I think that our spirit and our angels communicate in a way that makes sense for us. For you, you see 333. For somebody else, it might mean something totally different. You know, there's it's like looking at a piece of art. You know, there's the artist's conception. This is what I was hoping, and then there's your interpretation of it. So Doreen Virtue can say, yeah, 333 means this, but maybe that doesn't mean that for you. Maybe it means something else. So
Hmm.
it's about what you feel guided. But I think fundamentally there are some fundamental patterns that appear, especially if you look at the individual numbers. You know, like the Pythagoreans, which were a group of people back in Greek times, they worshipped numbers, and they were really connected with sacred geometry. And I feel like I've been with them before, and I'm bringing that forth now. But what's interesting, a lot of people don't know this, is that the oracles that we use, the tarot, and so on, are really connected to numerology. So we're kind of getting into numerology a little bit, but everything's connected. But it's people might not realize that that tarot is really numbers based. It really was numbers based, and a lot of the numbers on the tarot cards mean things if you really study that. And certain numbers have certain properties, really. But
Yes.
for example, the number 0 obviously represents the void, represents nothingness. 1, of course, unity. 1 and 1 put 2 together, right? And you have duality. So there, and again, it's also always also what you decided it means. 5, I think 5 being like in the middle between the numbers we can count on our hands, because we have 10 fingers. So 5, I think, is like in the middle. That's kind of how I see it. And 10 was considered, especially to the Pythagoreans, the number of completion. The number, because you have 1 and the 0 together. You have unity consciousness and you have nothingness put together, which is all that there is, which is unity consciousness. And we can go into so many tangents about what numbers mean. Some people can see numbers like in their mind like crazy, like, and I have a mathematical mind, so I tend to think in terms of numbers. But the universe, like when we get into sacred geometry, it's not so much that it's based off numbers, it's based off proportions. Okay? It's based off proportions, which leads to particular number sequences, like you had mentioned. One important of those is called the phi ratio, or the golden ratio, and that is 1.618. 1.618 is called the golden ratio. If you've taken any kind of art classes or geometry, you've heard about the golden ratio. The Greeks in their architecture, when they built the Parthenon, there was the proportions of the golden ratio. And what's fascinating about the golden ratio is that they're discovering that the spirals of galaxies have the golden ratio. The proportion of the digits of our fingers, golden ratio. Proportion of hand to, I believe this is called the humerus, right, is 1.618, 1.618, again and again and again and again. And that's called the golden ratio. So they say that the universe that we live in, because I believe in multiple universes, is governed by the golden ratio. So that's fascinating.